Om Arunachala Shiva. Welcome to Arunachala Musings. Pratibodha Viditam matam amrutatvam hi vindate. Atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate amrutam. Pratibodha Viditam matam. This mantra from Kenopanishad is very important as it is the crux of Vedanta. And it gives us the clue as to how to realize the real self. Bodha means the cognition or knowledge. It is the reflection of the self's light on the thought wave of intellect, that is mind. The self or the God or Supreme Spirit, the real nature of everyone, is ever present. And when the thoughts rise, its reflection is there in the thought wave. That is the cognition. That is what we say as a knowledge. When we say we see an object, or we taste something, or even when we say we remember something, that is a thought into which the light of the self is reflected. And that is how the cognition arises. That is it. The word in Sanskrit for that is bodha. So in each and every modification of intellect, mind, sense, body, the knowledge of the self is reflected. In fact, without the self and the light of the self, no thought wave can arise, no emotions can arise, neither can breath function, and the senses in the body cannot obviously function. So only because of the light of the self, they operate. So it follows that in each and every thought and each and every emotion and each and every sense perception and action, the self is already there. So that is what it means, pratibodha, every cognition. It is the light of our real nature that is the basis of our thought, perception and action. So even if we sit for meditation and our body is quiet, the eyes are closed and other sense inputs are closed, everything is quiet, but then suddenly something rises in the mind and you immediately know it. That is your own light illumines every single thought. That is bodha, that is cognition. So each thought and action, we should be simultaneously aware of our real nature, our real pure consciousness, bliss nature. Because this self can never be directly object of knowledge, just as we know the objects of the world, or we know our thinking, our memory, our emotions. That is the object of our perception, knowledge or cognition, bodha. But in that way, the self cannot be cognized because it is the very source which is cognizing all these things. It is the subject which is cognizing all these things. Now, the Indian philosophers have debated about this cognition process, the bodha, the knowledge process. The Nayayika philosophers belonging to Nyaya school of Indian philosophy. In India, there are 6 systems of philosophy. They are called as darshana because they are not mere philosophies. They are meant to be realized. So, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. Uttar Mimamsa is Vedanta. So, this Nyayikas, the logicians, they hold that the self is a substance with some qualities of cognition. So, when in contact with mind, it gets the cognition. So, when there is a thought wave, the self, by becoming the agent of cognition, gives rise to cognition. And when there is no thought wave, the self remains as a substance without any quality. If this explanation is accepted for Pratibodha Viditam, then the self becomes a changing, impure substance with parts. So Vedanta would say that assuming self to be a substance and it is coming in contact with mind and then cognizing sometimes not. If you say like that, then it cannot be the pure infinite. It is something changing and impure. And the Vaisheshika philosophers too say the self is a substance, but in it the cognition remains as color inheres in pot or color in a flower, like red rose. The red is a color which is there in the flower rose. So they say that the self is a substance in which cognition is a sort of quality, like a red color of the rose. Both these views are contradictory to scriptural passages also, like the great dictums of Veda, Mahavakyas. One is Pragyanam Brahma, Brahman is consciousness. The another is Vijnanam Anandam Brahma, Brahman is consciousness and bliss. So this Nyaya and Vaisheshika position contradicts the Shruti Mahavakyas. Apart from being contradictory to scripture, these views are also contradictory to reason. How can the partless, attributeless self come in contact with mind, which is made up of parts and attributes? So, even if it is argued that the self being everywhere can come in contact with anything simultaneously, but this will lead to the condition where cognition is arising always, and there would be no place for memory sequence. Memory sequence would not arise if you say the self is everywhere and it is coming in contact with mind everywhere all the time. So that is logically not tenable. So, and also it contradicts our empirical experience, because we remember our past. So if this position is accepted, then the memory that we experience cannot be explained. The scriptures and logic prove that the self, that is the pure consciousness, self-luminous, eternal witness, that is the source of I am in everyone, is with every cognition it is manifested. Then the next part of the mantra says Atmana Vindate Viryam Vidya Vindate Amritam. That is, the spiritual aspirants get strength of immortality itself by getting the true knowledge about who am I. That is the pure self. Self-knowledge does not depend on anything external, and hence it gives the strength, while dependence on body-mind complex makes us selfless, as we feel limited, bound and mortal. That is, Atmana Vindate Viryam Vidya Vindate Amritam. Only by realizing our true self can we get the true strength. Depending on the body-mind complex makes us limited, bound and mortal, weak. Swami Vivekananda says, I am he, I am he. Day and night say I am he. It is the greatest strength, it is religion. So assert your true self. Do not bleat like a goat saying I am weak, I cannot do this, that. You are the immortal self. So this mantra of Kenopanishad gives us the clue as to how to be the self that we are truly in every cognition, every meditation and every action. Om Tat Sat.